Hi there, this is Linda, and welcome back to another Project Life process video. In this video, I'm putting together the week of February 11th through February 16th, 2023, and this included just my trip to the Dominican Republic. I am using the Wander Story Kit from Ali Edwards, so let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so for this week, or less than a week, I am documenting my trip to the Dominican Republic. So I made a few choices in documenting this week in my Project Life album. First, I'm not including many words at all. I think I will probably include one journaling card, and that's it. And my thought behind that was simply that this is not going to be the only place where I tell this story. And it is probably going to be a much longer story and contain a bunch of other little stories. And I just don't feel like I need or I really want all of that in my Project Life album. So instead, I'm focusing on just highlighting some of my favorite photos and just kind of like the overall feel of the trip. And from there, I will just add a few embellishments and have a little fun with it. But a lot of these photos, a lot of the extra photos I took are going to show up in other projects. So you can see I printed a lot of photos here. And then I'm working with the Wander Story Kit. And I had done my story planning for this, and I had put aside a few cards that I wanted to choose from for this, or maybe just use. So I had put aside two potential title cards. This one, and I tend to use this format for a title card, but I like to stamp the dates here, and I don't really love it with the wandering word there. I could use that, but I think I'm gonna go with this one. And I'm thinking I'm gonna put like the large like Dominican Republic across here, which I'm gonna have to create that with some sort of alphas, and then stamp my dates above and below it, which I think I'm gonna really like that treatment. And then for journaling cards, I had selected 3. So I have this one to tell my story. And like I said, I'm just going to add a very brief overview of what this trip was. And then from there, I'm just going to add a little bit of, I'm going to add these 2 filler cards. I'll probably add something on here. And then that's it as far as filling the pockets. I think what I'm going to do is add a little bit of stamping. I'm going to add my title and do some stamping on top of some of these photos to just kind of highlight some of the things that I did during this trip. I'm thinking on this one, so let's see, there was a chipboard set here. There's always a chipboard set. And I'm thinking I might want to put like some of these on this spread. The other thought was I could use like one of these like this, but this is such a bold thing. I don't think that the vellum looks good on it. I'm also going to probably look in my stash for some like travel products and see if I have any that go with the colors of this kit. So I was thinking like maybe like this, but I love this card so much, you guys. I'm just obsessed with that card. And I'm kind of using that as a jumping off point for like doing some alpha stamping. I do really like some of, these things. No agenda for the win, like saying yes to this, like take it easy. Like all of these could just kind of just be on the spread, right? But I am going to kind of include some of them as like potential things that I'm going to include, and then I will figure out my stamping and then adhere my stuff down. And then at the very end, I will probably rearrange things. And I think I'm going to do my journaling off camera because I just have a few like personal details I want to include in that. But otherwise, yeah, I think this is where I'm headed. I'm going to primarily focus on my stamping, which is going to take a while. So I'm going to put you guys on fast forward and go ahead and start embellishing these pockets. Okay, this spread comes together pretty quickly, especially on this video because there was a lot of repetition, and I'm just going to fast forward through a lot of that because you don't really need to see me stamping everything out. But I really decided to kind of focus on just the cards and the photos in this spread and add some large alpha stamping. So what I did was I pulled out a bunch of scraps of vellum from my scrap drawer, and you can see there's a bunch of random wonky shapes of vellum. And I'm just stamping out letters in this larger alpha stamp. I believe this was from an Older Week in the Life release from Ali Edwards. I want to say 2020. And I was just stamping out all the letters I need to write out Dominican Republic. So what I end up doing is just cutting out each letter. And so this was kind of time consuming, but it was relaxing. So I had a show on and I was just sitting here watching TV and cutting out all of these letters. And that really was the bulk of the work on this spread. So it wasn't, it's a pretty simple spread, but something like this, of course, is time consuming. So I do speed this part up really fast. This is at 20 times speed of me cutting out each of these letters. I decided to leave the vellum in the middle of any of the letters that had like a hole in it, like the O, and just cut around the edge loosely and leave a little bit of the vellum around the edge. And so my thought was just, I'm trying to write out the word Dominican Republic. I wanted it on vellum rather than stamped directly on the card, but it doesn't need to be perfect, right? Because stamping is never perfect. So then my plan was to adhere these words onto this title card. And I'm using rolling adhesive and just starting in the middle here and building out. So this alpha was a little bit large for the 4x6 card for what I was trying to write. So I just knew I needed to have the letters kind of overlap a little bit. I started having, the bottom letters, like the bottom row where it says Republic on top of the word Dominican. And then I decided that I wanted Dominican to be the more prominent word because that is more of the prominent word as far as where I was. So what I did was I just had peeled up the first few letters there and layered the N on top of the U and the B. So you can see I'm adhering down the letters in Republic first and then adhering down the letters in Dominican so that it will overlap the word Republic just slightly and have Dominican be more prominent. It might be hard to see it on the film, but you can definitely see it in person. So I finished adhering them down and I really love how that turned out. Then my thought was to add the dates of the week in the rest of that circle, one above the words Dominican Republic and one after. And I have to say, I love this title card. I think it came out exactly how I envisioned in my head. And I absolutely love when that works out that way because that is not always the case. So then I had thought about putting more alpha stamping on some of my photos, and I had toyed with the idea of using that same alpha that I used to write out Dominican Republic, but I thought it would be too large for most of the spots of my photos and it would seem kind of busy. So what I did was I went and found this alpha stamp in my stash, and I think this is from Studio Calico and much older, but I'm not sure where it's from. It might be from Ali Edwards. And I'm just stamping out some words on vellum. I decided because this font is so much smaller, you saw I kind of scrapped that first one. I had originally stamped the letters spaced out so I could cut them each out individually like I did with the title of Dominican Republic. But then I decided because they were so small, that just didn't make that much sense and would be a waste of my time. I mean, not necessarily a waste, but it would be very time consuming and not really add much to the spread. So I decided to stamp out the entire word overlapped a little bit and to cut them out into vellum strips. So I just stamped out a few words of things that I did on my vacation that are pictured here. So I wrote out sunrise because I got up and watched the sunrise pretty much every day. And I wrote out beach because I spent a lot of time laying out on the beach. I wrote out books because I read a couple of books on the beach or by the pool. And I wrote billiards because I was playing pool, but I didn't want to write the word pool because there was also a swimming pool. So I wanted to write the word billiards. And of course, there were some other things that I did on this vacation, but these are some of the things that were pictured here. So I kind of used that as my jumping off point to identify what I wanted to highlight on my words. I also want to point out in selecting my photos for this spread, I wanted to just kind of capture the overall vibe of this trip. I took hundreds of photos. It was very gorgeous. It wasn't a sightseeing vacation, as you can tell from these pictures and kind of the vibe of the spread. It was a relaxation vacation, but I really wanted, but I still took a ton of photos. And I plan to do something else to document this trip later. But for Project Life, I really just wanted to capture kind of the vibe. So I focused on photos that captured the vibe, which was relaxing. I tried to take pictures of things rather than people or the scenery, because I felt like that was more capturing of the vibe of the trip. And then I just included my 2 favorite photos of myself from the vacation, because those are photos I know I'm going to scrapbook them a couple of times for sure, because I just love them so much. And I don't get that many photos of myself that I love, maybe like 2 or 3 per year. So I know that these 2, that one of me laying there in the pool and the one of me jumping on the beach, will definitely be ones that I scrapbook over and over. And because of that, I feel like they are very emblematic of this vacation. So I wanted to include them on this spread. So that's kind of, I just wanted to explain my photo selection process and the fact that I just didn't really go through all of the photos in that much detail to select photos for the spread. I just kind of picked my favorites. So it was a lot of the ones that I had edited to put on my stories while I was on vacation, my 2 favorite ones of me, and just a few other ones that just kind of stood out while I was in the process of printing photos. I decided to wait and do my journaling off camera. Because I wanted to kind of just do a little bit of reflective journaling about this vacation that I didn't want to share online. But you can see how the spread looks with that journaling in the photo of the completed spread. And I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it inspires you to include a little bit of your vacations in your Project Life album. If you like this video, please leave me a comment down below and show me some support by subscribing to my channel so that you don't miss any future videos just like this one. Thanks. See you guys in the next one. Bye.